Local media report China's central government has just passed a controversial national security law for the city. Beijing says the law is aimed at secession, subversion, and terrorism. Critics say it could undermine the city's civil and political freedoms. We want to bring in our Anna Corrin, who's live in Hong Kong now, who's been obviously following this since Beijing decided to try and go through with this controversial law. And Anna, when I heard that it had actually passed, even though it was widely expected, the word that came to mind was seismic.
Yeah, seismic indeed, Paula. As many critics are saying, this is now the end of one country, two systems, the end of Hong Kong's autonomy, the end of Hong Kong's rule of law. This is a controversial law that we were all expecting. Beijing had said as much. It came through early this morning, according to RTHK, which is Hong Kong's public broadcaster. The National People's Congress Standing Committee passed this very controversial law. And as you say, it will prohibit secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign forces. Now, interestingly, just moments after this news broke here in Hong Kong, the city's chief executive, Carrie Lam, was giving her weekly press conference, and she was asked about this, and she refused to make any comment. She refused to even confirm whether or not the law had been passed. Perhaps that suggests that she didn't know that Beijing had made that decision, but she said that it would be inappropriate to comment on this whilst the NPC was still in progress. But Paula, for the pro-democracy activists, for pro-democracy lawmakers, there are real fears as to what this means. Will this mean that these people will end up in jail? This is Beijing taking back control of Hong Kong, crushing dissent, crushing opposition, and crushing those protests that have plagued this city since June of last year. Millions of people took to the streets. 2 million people took to the streets back in June in response to an extradition bill that Carrie Lam was trying to pass. Those protests then turned violent, and that's what we saw, those clashes with police throughout the end of last year. But obviously, with COVID, the city has now returned with an extremely heavy police presence. And with Hong Kong now under this national security law, it means that Beijing has a much tighter grip. Paula, we are learning that people who face this law could be facing a maximum penalty of life in prison, not the 10 years that had been originally reported. But we are not going to know the specific details of this law until Xinhua, the official state news agency in Beijing, publishes the details of this controversial national security law later this afternoon.